A lot of people in this audience very anxious to hear from Rabbi David Heber. They've been anxious for the last month since 5786 began. Today, our segment on Calendaric Trivia with Rabbi Heber is being sponsored again by our dear friends Carrie and Joshua Levine of West Hempstead, New York. It's in honor of their daughter Shoshana's recent engagement to Seth Schlank, the son of Eileen and Michael, out in Plainview, Long Island. And Rabbi Heber joins me in wishing the Levines and the Schlanks a major mazel tov this morning on a Rosh Chodesh here at JM in the AM. Rabbi David Heber is director of the Star K Information Department and rabbi of Kahal Avos Yisrael Tzemach Tzedek in Baltimore, Maryland. If you don't have Rabbi Heber's book about time, I strongly suggest you obtain it as soon as possible. Rabbi David Heber, welcome back to a good yard to you, and welcome back to JM in the AM.
Good to you. Tell your listeners, mazel tov also to the sponsors. And it's always nice to be on, especially Rosh Chodesh.
Yeah, imagine this is the way to do it. Rabbi Heber, it's been a difficult, for those who are familiar with the Baltimore community, it's been a difficult couple of weeks. And one of the reasons, of course, is because your dear colleague, somebody that you worked with and knew for a long time, Rabbi Moshe Hauer, was suddenly taken from us over Yontif, and this has had a ripple effect. The sadness and the tragic nature of the news had a ripple effect throughout the entire Jewish community. It's unbelievable hearing and reading about the tributes to Rabbi Hauer. Take a minute, if you will, and just give us your feelings and you reflect on a very special relationship.
Sure, Rabbi Moshe Hauer, Tzemach Bracha, had a tremendous impact on so many people. He raised the level really of Torah Chasadim, not only in his shul but in the whole community. And there are many that mentored him. I have a guest who flew in. Someone used to come to us for Shabbos as a bacher, and he was out of town. He flew in just to do Nachum Oval. He told me he was at the Shiva house for 4 hours yesterday because he said he felt like an oval. He just wanted to take in. He had spent a lot of time with Rabbi Hauer, who really taught many people in many ways, and he was tremendous with people in the happiest of times and even in the saddest of times. He knew, Torah, what to say and how to say it. He cared for the Yachid and he cared for the Rabbim, and really a trusted spokesperson for the entire Orthodox community. And he used all of his talents with Tzarech Tzibur in just so many different ways. On a personal note, we came to Israel the same day, 43 years ago. We actually met in the Beis Medrash by nothing by chance, but I remember it well. I remember what we spoke about. He was coming from the Montreal Yeshiva. I was coming from Chicago Tells. And there were two young Beis Medrash Bachrim from other yeshivas that were joining in with the other Bachrim in their Yisrael. And then as a colleague in Baltimore, his shul was 2 blocks down, so I got to see him in action. And even I teach in Malot, what's now known as Witt Seminary, which is located upstairs from his shul, and I was there all the time, and we spoke, and I got to really see a little bit in action, even from the comings and goings. I had a very, very special zchus to trade places with Rabbi Hauer. Every Tzem Gedalia, we did this 16 years in a row, until he retired, and now I do it with Rabbi Rose, who took over. We trade places between Mincha Marav. I go to their shul to speak, and he comes to our shul. So our shul had the chus of hearing him every time Gedaya. And, it was a beautiful, just way of beginning the year. And, I'll miss him tremendously.
No, that I'm sure. And the suddenness of his loss was one of the reasons why everybody still continues to be in a state of shock. And no doubt the Baltimore community even more than some of the communities up here. Although, as you noted, when he was with the OU, he certainly represented us well and certainly had an impact on Orthodox Jewry, and as many have pointed out, on Jewry in general in this country and the world. Rabbi David Heber is with us. It's time to check out some calendaric trivia on a Rosh Chodesh morning. And Rabbi Heber, you know what we have to start with. I mean, we have no choice. Now that we've gone through the 3 Tuesday Yom Tovim in a row, we must discuss what everybody was discussing during this month of Tishrei, and that is, and I have to be very careful how I say this, was this the worst of all of the setups? when you have when you have a yontif that could begin on Thursday for a 3-dayer, or of course on Shabbos, which just seems to be everybody's preference. Although I mentioned on the air yesterday, I did meet somebody who actually loved the Tuesday start. I can't remember why, but they told me why they loved it. And then, of course, is the Monday and the Tuesday. Now, the good news is, Rabbi Heber, the good news is that the Tuesday Rosh Hashanah is only 11.5% of the time. So, you know.
That's right.
So, you know,
not often.
Right, it's not that often.
The real answer to your question is it depends on your age, right? It depends on your age.
I think on your right. Depends on your age whether you prefer it, or it depends on your age whether you remember it.
Whether you prefer it. To see if you're 10 years old, right? Then, I mean, they were off. The schools were closed.
They missed school for a month. They love it, right?
That's right.
And if you're a working person, you're regretting having to tell your boss you need another 2 days off.
That's right. It had a little bit of a, it felt like yontif every day.
Right.
I mean, the number of days of I think my son Shmuley made a calculation that from the day of Shabbos of Slichas,
right,
until through Simchas Torah, there were 30 of 33 days that you either said Slichas or Daven Musaf.
Correct.
Right, so the davenings were, if I have that stat correct.
And then a very close, if not the same stat in terms of how many Erev Shabbos and Yontif and how many Shabbos and Yontif days total you have in that stretch. It's also way up there.
Right, which would mean you basically were either making Kiddush or Abdullah every day. A little bit easier here. I think it was a little easier. Now, I'm not going to speak for all the housewives, and I may get some emails, but I know when it's Monday, you come right out of Shabbos, and you're literally right away, Sunday night, you're ready 3 times in a row.
I made the argument that the Monday setup is definitely better than the Tuesday, but you're right. There are some, those who prepare the meals, etc., who might argue with that. I hear that. Meanwhile, the Monday is 28% of the time, while Tuesday's 11.5%, as Rabbi Heber has taught us over the years. The Shabbos start, which I think is next year, right? Next year we get the Shabbos?
Next year, 2 years in a row.
Right, 2 years in a row. That's 28.5% of the time. And the 3-day yontif, at least outside of Israel, the 3-day yontif for 3 times is 32%. So, and again, that seems to be the second, even though it's 3-day yontifs, I think it still gets the vote for the second favorite setup. And remember, Rabbi Heber, there are consolation prizes. I don't know if you thought of this or not, but the famous consolation prize, of course, is when Yontif is Thursday, you get Yom Kippur on Shabbos. You have a full week, the week before Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur Shabbos, nobody has to prepare for Shabbos, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the famous consolation prize when it's a Thursday Yontif. Right. But this year, the Tuesday start, I came up with 2 minor consolation prizes. You ready?
Go ahead.
Number 1, 3 weeks in a row of a very short parsha.
Right, because you had Nitzavim and then Vayelech, right. Okay, good.
Second consolation prize. And trust me, the teenagers are going to love this one, because I don't know why they react to this so much more than the adults. You ready for this? Second consolation prize, 3 weeks in a row of No Vihi Noah Bat HaKadosh.
Oh, right. You have to figure out what to do Motzei Shabbos last week. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. I know consolation. That's a short one. I like to look at the whole year and say, what's the best? Like certain things I really like, and certain things. I like every yontif. So let's right up front, no matter when or where.
Right.
But like when I do the first Sefira. So for example, when Pesach is Thursday, Friday, you get the Friday Shabbos. You get to trim your beard. Mm-hmm. Okay, but then that means that we're gonna have that the next 2 years.
Right. Seder Wednesday night.
Seder Wednesday night, Erev Tavshilin.
Right.
At the same time, when Simchas Torah is a Friday, I find it hard because you're coming into Shabbos all schwitzed up,
right?
And so on. So that's hard. Those 3 days and so many sets of 3 days,
right?
Plus, each one is its own mile.
Also, those who are really careful about Shnai Mikra do not like the 3 day setup because they go right into braces. Right. And who's in the mood? Who's in the mood to do Shnai Mikra after dancing Simchas Torah day and night? So that's always a consideration. And by the way, just to clarify, if you're in Israel, you don't make an Erev Tavshilin this coming Pesach. That was only meant for those in Chutz La'aretz. Correct, Rabbi Heber?
Correct, but you will make one on Shavuos, which will be Friday.
Right. This year Shavuos. Oh, we're really jumping ahead here. This year Shavuos is going to be quote unquote 2 days everywhere. You like how I put that?
Yes.
2 days everywhere.
Well put.
Because Shavuos is Friday, which means in Israel it will be Friday and then a regular Shabbos. We'll have the whole Parshas off thing, right? We'll do that again, I assume, right?
Right. Chukas Balak will be together only in Chutz La'aretz, but not in there. So it leads to one interesting thing of Tavshin Pei Vav, and that's all the Parshas are together, all the possible Parshas. There's 7 sets of Parshas that could be together.
Meaning as double Parshas.
Everything, every possible double Parsha will be together.
Wow.
So you'll be Ma'aver a lot of Sedra, where you have those double Parshas back in Bakude and Chukas Balak. And as you saw, of course, they only have 6 possibilities. Right. Because Chukas Balak are never together. Even Savayel will be together.
And the shame of it is we're out of practice because this past year we hardly had any double Parshas, right?
Well, it was so bright. I mean, you had because it was a non-leap year, so we had together. Oh, right. Those ones in the spring. We had ones in the spring, but Chukas Balak were separate. Some Vayelech were separate.
Right. Matos Maseh this past year were together. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was
even in Eretz Yisrael, everywhere, worldwide.
Rabbi Heber's with us. It's a calendaric trivia analysis for the year 5786. Now, there's a significant event happening this Motzei Shabbos that I believe, and again, the same significant event is happening in another part of the world next Motzei Shabbos, which I believe is very a key to specifically 5786. You ready for this, Rabbi Heber? Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
This coming Motzei Shabbos, they changed the clock to standard time in Israel. Next Motzei Shabbos, we changed the clock to standard time. By the way, as an aside, everybody, it's the uniqueness of 1 week of a 6-hour difference between the East Coast and Yerushalayim, right? It's 1 week of a 6-hour difference. If people are calling
now.
Say it again?
And in the spring again, the spring it happens again.
And in the spring it happens for much longer. But yes, it'll only be a week this time. So next week, if you have a Zoom call with someone in Israel and you're wondering why they're late, this is the reason, because they think it's a 7-hour difference. Or if they're early, whatever. You figure it out, everybody. Anyway, Rabbi Heber, what did I discover about 5786 while I was analyzing the daylight savings time end in Israel this week and the daylight savings time end in the United States next week? What did I discover, Rabbi Heber? It is a topic that we have discussed before. One of the things they did in this country, and you'll agree with this, and we discussed this when the whole proposal came up about keeping daylight savings time all year round. Where are we holding with that, by the way? Is the government still planning on doing that, daylight savings time year round?
They had some committee meetings about it. But to the best of my knowledge, it hasn't gotten past there. And different. Now it's quiet. Obviously, there's a lot of other things going on in the government that they're busy with. So I think this is kind of a bit lower on the. You never know.
Does Jewish leadership know that you're the best representative of our community to argue the case against daylight savings time year round? Do they realize that you're the authority when it comes to time?
I don't know, but maybe I'll get to go to the Senate one day. If you push it, you'll get me into the Senate to testify. Yeah.
I can just see it now. We can't have Vasikin Minyan at 8:00 in the morning. We can't. Anyway, so what did I discover about 5786? I've always tended, and you've agreed with me, that in the old days, when they changed the clock to daylight savings time after Pesach, we had the luxury of having the Pesach Seder, quote unquote, an hour early, right? Basically 7:30 instead of 8:30 on the East Coast.
Right.
And we had the again, what I believe is easier, much shorter Tanis Esther. And the only exchange was that the Purim Suda had to be, started earlier than we usually start it now. Because in 5786, Purim is as early as it is, and the United States changes back to daylight savings time afterwards. We will have Purim and Tanis Esther on standard time. Rabbi Heber, what do you say to that? I'm applauding it. I'm
good.
applauding this.
Great.
Rabbi Heber.
That's very good. That does happen because it's the cutoff is straddles Purim. So every so often, usually right before a leap year, which are the earliest of the years, which now we're before a leap year. We have this ability. You're 100% correct. In 2017, we changed the clock on Purim. I think it happens again in 2031.
Meaning on Purim Sunday?
Yes, Purim was Sunday. Wow. And we changed the clock. In 2017, it happened. I believe in 2031, it happens again.
So 1 second. So 2 years. So 2 years in a row, we'll have a Tanis Esther ending an hour earlier.
No, 2017 and 2031. No, so next year.
Oh, I thought
in 2026 we'll have it.
I thought you meant 2027. I thought you meant 2027. You meant 2017. And there are years, by the way, like the one I just alluded to, which I was wrong about. There are years where Tanis Esther is Thursday, and then Purim is Sunday, and Tanis Esther is an hour shorter, and then you get the extra hour for the Suda to start the Suda on Sunday. So. It does happen. It's a crazy excitement.
Right, that's nice. Because when it's Thursday, also, you don't have to fast coming into the
Correct. Correct.
In the daylight savings time and Tanis Esther on a regular, not Erev Purim, but Erev Purim, where you're going into Megillah, like let's say Tanis Esther on Monday, and then Purim is Monday night, and daylight savings time, you really don't eat until the same time. It's like Shavuos B'Tammuz. I checked my watch.
Correct.
Last time it's like 9:20, which is like Shavuos B'Tammuz.
Especially by you. I think Shkia is later by you than in New York, if I'm not mistaken.
A little bit, a few minutes later. We're west.
Right.
It might be 10 minutes, maybe about 10 minutes. Like Detroit. My brother was in Detroit. I mean, there it's like everything's run so late.
They're the most west you can get in the Eastern time zone.
Pretty much from Kehila, the latest places are Detroit, where my brother lives. My wife has a brother and a sister. We have Cincinnati. My daughter lives in Cincinnati. There's none there are so late. The absolute latest is South Bend.
And South Bend is Cleveland also, right? Cleveland also.
Cleveland's also very late, yeah.
Oh, but South Bend's even more west.
Yeah, much west. I think it's like maybe 8 to 10 minutes.
Now,
they used to have they have issues davening even without daylight savings.
Correct. Yeah, we've discussed Ramosha's psak about this, right? We've discussed on the air where Moshe's approach was when it came to the energy crisis when they went to daylight savings time for the winter. I think you and I
right. That's a certain heterim. This is actually good because Sunday, daylight savings time actually. This is just a important idea. Daylight savings time begins. Not the first month of Shabbos in November, it begins the first Sunday in November,
right.
Which means that if October 31st is on a Shabbos,
right?
I'm sorry, if November 1st, let's see,
October 31st. If October 31st on a Shabbos, then November 1st Sunday they change the clock, right?
They're correct. They change the clock on Sunday,
right?
And that's now it's a little better because now this year we get
November 2nd, right?
November 2nd, which is early. Next year will be the 1st, so that'll be good.
Rabbi Heber's with us. We're discussing calendaric trivia. Final point on this daylight savings time thing, because I feel because it's in the news, or you and I still think it's in the news, that it would be interesting to point this out. I was saying to myself, okay, they ruined Purim, they ruined Pesach, with my theory about going to daylight savings time earlier and earlier, and we've discussed this, and, ruined, of course, I'm joking around, but you know what I mean. So I said to myself, I wonder if they do go to daylight savings time year-round, if there'll be any benefits or any drawbacks. I came up with 1 and 1. You ready for this, Rabbi?
Okay.
If they go to daylight savings time year-round, Asar B'Teves gets to be an hour later.
Right.
We're used to Asar B'Teves ending like in the 5:30 area, which is a gift when it comes to a fast day. 6:30 is a big difference. Don't you agree?
Right. later. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the
but
other...
It'll start. You'll be able to eat a grand breakfast.
That's true. I would have, right. Especially here, we'd be able to have a much larger breakfast than usual pre-fast day. That's true.
Nate, if this would happen, then this is the huge problem, is that Nate Chama sunrise would be in Baltimore at 8:25 in the morning, which means you could daven even the earliest of the earliest with all the heter would be 7 a.m.
Right.
And even that would be pitch black, but your fast wouldn't begin until about 7 a.m. So you could sit down at 6:30 and 6:15 and really it's totally dark if that would happen. But it would be a huge problem.
And Asar B'Teves, let me see here. Asar B'Teves in New York this year, if we did have daylight savings time, oh my gosh, sunrise would be 8:19. Wow. And that means that means Alos would be around somewhere between 6:45 and 7 o'clock. Boy,
right,
you could have a whole brunch without a problem.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that would be a drawback, Asar B'Teves an hour later. What would be the benefit? You ready for this, Rabbi Heber? I wonder if you agree with me or not. In a rabbinic family, this may not be as big of an issue. A drop more of a flexible schedule than those who are tied to their desks at work. But if, in fact, we had daylight savings time year-round, we could move the start time of lighting Hanukkah candles to an hour later. And that might benefit a lot of families who want to light at the appropriate time, at the best time, but they can't always make it home from work. Now, in this area, it would be like 6:15, 6:30 if we would do that.
100%. And, of course, Friday, the biggest advantage would be Shabbos to start later. People who rush home.
Right.
Who have to leave work early. They leave work early, but they would be able to stay later. I believe Rabbi Feinstein in the letter when this, was discussed by the oil embargo in the 70s, and they made that change.
Right.
I think he wrote that the Shabbos is an advantage, but it does not it does not offset the problem with the davening issue.
Correct.
So the davening issue is so severe.
Oh, 100%.
Even though, yes, there is a little bit of silver lining in some of this, but, in some places, some communities it wouldn't affect. I mean, someone called me about this, that we're making a big deal. In some communities that really start the day later, right, where just things get started later, so late sunrise wouldn't have any impact.
Well, can you give me an example? What do you mean to start the day later? What does that mean?
No, let's say by some communities, their davening is some yeshivas, they don't start davening. They daven at, some start davening 10 to 8 o'clock.
Right,
so,
correct.
So daylight savings times, the sunrise, 8:25, okay, we'll start 10 minutes later.
The yeshiva high schools won't be affected, right?
Right, minimally. It's really the people who are going to work.
Of course.
6:30 being on them.
And I don't want to simplify this because obviously I haven't seen it in years. I don't remember all the discussions about it. But if I remember something about Rav Moshe's tshuva of that era, he was very sensitive to try as hard as possible to keep the minyan times their usual minyan times. In other words, if there was a way, whatever that meant, whether it meant, adjusting your talis and tefillin at the appropriate time during davening or, davening to a certain point and then, at the appropriate time taking over or continuing, with the tefillah, whatever it was, I know that he tried. If there was a 6:30 minyan every day, it was very important to him that, there was a kfiyas like that for a community that he would try within the world of halacha to keep it at 6:30. That's
right. So Ramosha and other places also very important. Like people like to habitually to come at the same place, also at the same time, and otherwise, I'm not coming. Like
you're fighting. Hey, we just saw this during COVID. You're fighting human nature. It took people years to get back to shul after they, after for many people, I shouldn't say everybody, but many people, it took a long time to get back to the regular shul routine with all the closures during COVID. Imagine this: if year-round it's daylight savings time, it could be months at a time that you have to make an adjustment for davening. And I'll tell you another thing, by the way. If this does happen, and I know that we're dealing with this hypothetical, but if it does happen, those workplaces that provide a place to daven shacharis at 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m., they'll be the heroes of the entire thing.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know about Baltimore, but in New York, you could find a lot of companies that are open to shacharis and mincha being done in their facility on a daily basis.
Right, we have a lot of mincha. I don't know of any workplace that has chakras.
Yeah.
Because
there are here, yeah.
But mincha is all over. And I'm sure in New York, here in Manhattan, I mean, there's all of this.
Yeah, but I'm saying even chakras here you'll find if you look hard enough. Rabbi David Heber is with us. All right, Rabbi Heber, here's your chance. The last few minutes. What else do we need to know about the year 5786? Anything about the holidays, the Parshios? What type of months are we going to be having in 5786? Today we're observing a 2-day, as it always is, Rosh Chodesh Mar Cheshvan. What about Kislev and Teves? Those months can be adjusted on an annual basis. Am I right?
Right, correct. So we're going to have this year, we're going to have, it's going to be 29-30. Cheshvan is 29. Mar Cheshvan is 29 days. Kislev is going to be 30 days. And there are two, I want to mention that this year is not as exciting as last year was with all the Purim Fridays and all that. But there's something this year, there are two silent things. Before I get to a few little tidbits of what everybody will see, there are two silent events that occurred this year. Okay, number one is there was a machlokes, a dispute 1,100 years ago as to when Rosh Hashanah is. It was between Sadia Gaon, Babylonia, and Rabbi Aaron ben Meir. The year it's the 900s. Okay, the 900s this occurred, and what was the dispute? It actually kept Rosh Hashanah on different days.
Wow!
And you'll hear what I'm telling to you for this year. Well, I'll get to this year in a second, and I'll be as brief as I can on this. But the way to determine Rosh Hashanah is the Milad, which is the time of the new moon of the month of Tishrei. Right. If the Milad is now, there's some exceptions. If the Milad is on a Sunday, as you know, well, yeah, the Rish, you can't have Rosh Hashanah on Sunday, so we make it Monday, even though the Milad was on Sunday, Wednesday or Friday. Another, it's called what pushes off Rosh Hashanah. If the Milad is after 12 noon, the Rosh Hashanah is the next day. So this year we had that. Okay, this year the Milad occurred at 12:10 at 7 Chalakim. Okay, like it's 3 1/3 seconds. So we pushed off Rosh Hashanah to Tuesday. In other words, we're talking about Tuesday versus Monday. It missed Monday by about less than 11 minutes. Meaning had the Milad been 11 minutes earlier, the time of the new moon, Rosh Hashanah would have been Monday. We'd be already done with Rosh Chodesh now. The whole year would have had a ripple effect.
Oh, wow.
But we didn't. Now listen to this. In 1,102 years ago, there was the Rav in Eretz Yisrael, his name was Rabbi Aaron ben Meir. He said the cutoff for the Milad is not 12 noon. It's about 12:35 and a few halakim. So if that year the Milad fell between 12 noon and 12:35.
Like this year.
So they argued, like this year, they argued where Rosh Hashanah would be. In that case, it was Shabbos versus Monday. Rabbi Aaron ben Meir Yerushalayim said it's not what's called a Milad Zaken. Rosh Hashanah is on Shabbos, and in Yerushalayim they had Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, Yom Kippur on Monday, and so on. In Bavel, Rabbi Sadia Gaon vehemently disagreed and said no, the cutoff is 12 o'clock. Rosh Hashanah is on. In that case, it was Monday. This year, for the first time in 181 years. The last time was 1844 this happened. The Milad fell in the window between 12 noon and 12:35.
And by the way, there's a major discrepancy. You're not blowing shofar both days, according to one shita.
Right, correct. That's if it's Shabbos. In the case of Shabbos and Monday, right? You're not blowing shofar, and you're celebrating Yom Kippur on a totally different day. And
so you have people blowing shofar one day and others blowing shofar both days.
Right, exactly, right, and also fasting on Yom Kippur, which day? So this was a huge machlokes, and it was resolved. I mean, the Rambam clearly passed like Rav Sadia Gaon, and in that era, they kept like Rav Sadia Gaon. These years come in bunches, and it'll happen again in 2029. I know is one of the years, and then either I forget if it's 2028 or 2030, but it comes in bunches. But this has not happened. Again, there's no practical, what's called nafkamina. There's no practical difference, but it's fascinating. This actually was my drasha on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. I mentioned this in passing, and we spoke about how Klal Yisrael has to, comes to the importance of Klal Yisrael coming together, which which you see with Chas Shalom, they wouldn't be in this case.
Right.
Could you imagine? People talk about in which we've spoken about on the show in Kobe, Japan, the Mir Yeshiva and other Talmidim. They kept the Yom Kippur, which day that was one day, 1 year. A whole bunch of Talmidim students had this based on what was coming from Eretz Yisrael, and we're still talking about it 80 years later. Could you imagine if this machlokes persisted? So it was critical. Wow. And the Rambam is very clear in Hilchos Kiddush HaChodesh that 12 noon is the cutoff, and therefore Rosh Hashanah was clearly this year on Tuesday. And again, it rippled the whole year because Purim was on Friday instead of Thursday, and so on. And that's one silent event that occurred that went by pretty unnoticed.
Right.
Pretty unnoticed. I had a share on this on Torah Anytime. If you want more details, I had a share back in the fall, in the Kiss lifetime, where these issues already related. It's on Torah Anytime. So that's number one. Number two, the other silent issue, and this was just a random thought over Yontif. Okay, we are in the middle year of Shemitah right now, meaning there's a 7-year cycle of Shemitah.
We're in 4.
We are in the 4th year of Shemitah, so we're right in the middle. Right in the middle. Okay, in the 19-year cycle, we have the 19th-year cycle, and leap years are 7 times. Uh-huh. We are in the middle year of the 19-year cycle.
Year 10.
Okay, we're in year 10, right in the middle. Okay, if the two of those are in the middle together, only every 133 years. So you're right in the middle.
Oh, my.
Both occur. Okay, but listen to this. This I thought over Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah this year was on Wednesday, which is, in Yiddish, it's known as Mitvach.
Well, Rosh Hashanah was Tuesday.
Wednesday, right. But the second day, the only time Rosh Hashanah is ever on a Wednesday, either day. First day is ever on a Wednesday.
Right.
Second day on a Wednesday. So you had the middle of the week. You had the middle year of Shemitah. You had the middle year of the 19th year cycle. Has never happened, all three.
Ever? This is the first time it ever happened?
Since the calendar was the way we know it, LP, calculation, since 4119, it has never happened.
Wow.
I made a drush out of that also.
I would imagine so. I mean, my gosh.
The people are going to think there's all I darshan about. You last night members, I'm very careful. But when something comes across, I can't resist. I made a drush out of the Mida Hamamutza, the importance of, like the Rambam says, like being in the middle of the road, meaning not too much this, not too much that, especially on Simchas Torah, not being too quiet and not, running away, and not being overly exuberant, shall we say, and running around with Sefer Torah to the corners of the bis medrash, so that we don't bring them back. So that was on a more just a few little practical things that people will notice.
Yeah.
Okay, 3 Sefer Torah this year, which we've had many times recently, but appreciate the moment, because other than Simchas Torah, this is the last 3 Sefer Torah. We're talking about Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah.
Wow.
The last time we're going to have 3 Sefer Torah besides Simchas Torah for 3 years. 2029 is going to be the next time that it happens. And the longest benching we'll also have on Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah. That's not going to happen for 14 years.
Because the 3 in 2029 is a different yontif. Is it different?
Correct. It's Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
With what Parshas HaChodesh?
Exactly right. Here's one you're going to like, because you always like the Matzah Yontif, Matzah Shabbos. My son's really told me this one. It's the only year, that you make Havdalah twice on a Thursday night, which is always interesting, because especially after
we did it after Yom Kippur.
Right, and we'll do it Matzah Pesach.
Wow. If you're not in Israel.
If you're not in Israel, which also is a little difficult for the housewives coming out of, as they say in the Yekisha community, rumpling and they're making Shabbos.
I remember when Pesach would end on Thursday, and we would have this whole discussion if we should just use matzah or try to find challah for Shabbos. I remember that. Because
my wife will be baking that challah of Shabbos, I can tell you that.
Yeah, my parents were always, I think my parents erred on the side of, just in case someone got started a little too early because it was Thursday night, we're just going to use matzah on Shabbos. I remember that. I don't know why I distinctly remember that. But of course, that's only in a family where you buy challahs, as opposed to what you just said, where you're in a family where someone bakes the challahs. So if they bake the challah, obviously they're doing it at the proper time. I'm just looking. So the Rosh Chodesh Teves Oh, it is a 2-day, or it's Shabbos Sunday this year. It's Shabbos Sunday. So basically,
right, exactly.
Oh, one other thing about this year I wanted to mention, Rabbi Heber, which I think you'll laugh at. You ready for this?
Go ahead, yep.
For the families who can never, ever get it exactly right, because there's two sides, quote unquote, to every family, right? You got your family, your wife's family, all your kids have their other side of the family, et cetera, et cetera. This year, there are 2 Sunday nights of Hanukkah. You can actually have two Sunday night Hanukkah parties in addition to the Motzei Shabbos one. What do you think of that?
It's good. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Now, next year, of course, we're jumping ahead. You're going to have 2 Shabbos Hanukkahs,
wow,
which we haven't had in quite some time. Yeah. That creates different schools and yeshivas give off different Shabbos.
Correct.
So that, which one? But it has its advantages and disadvantages.
Right. And you'd still have 3 party possibilities, 2 Motzei Shabboses and 1 Sunday.
Right, exactly, right.
Oh,
right.
no, you could. No, I'm wrong. It's only 1 Motzei Shabbos. You're lighting Friday night, so.
Right. That's right. No, you need Sunday. You need a Sunday Hanukkah to get to 2 Motzei Shabbos.
Correct.
But the other thing this year, interesting, it's the only possible year that you have 4 Tanesim on the same day of the week.
So Yom Kippur was a Thursday. Shavas Tammuz will be Thursday. Tisha B'Av will be Thursday. Oh, and obviously Tanis Esther is going to be Thursday. No.
Tzom Gedalia was.
Right,
Yom Kippur.
Correct. Tanis Esther will be, what did you say Purim was? What day of the week?
Purim is going to be on a Tuesday.
So Monday's Tanis Esther. So Tzom Gedalia and Yom Kippur as a set, a week apart, and then Shavas Tammuz and Tisha B'Av as a set, 3 weeks apart.
Exactly. And so it's the only year, this type of exact year that we have, where you have, it starts on a Tuesday and Pesach on a Thursday.
Right.
This type of year will not happen for 27 years. This exact, everything will repeat itself somewhere along the way for other reasons, but the year in its complete sake. So this 4 Tanesim is in this type of year only, in the same day of the week. You never have 4 Tanesim the same day of the week in any other year. So again, this type of year, 27 years, and then won't happen for another 27 years.
Well, am I right that the unpopular Tuesday Rosh Hashanah, and of course that's said tongue-in-cheek, but based on the beginning of this conversation, doesn't happen for another 20 years? Am I right about that?
That's correct. Yeah. That is correct. So Purim on a Friday, and that's again something, someone sent me an email. Your congregants, how many times have your congregants heard this is the last time for 20 years? I said, I'm careful. But again, Pesach on Sunday, and Purim on Friday, and the Hab was on Pesach Sheni, and we had the most days of the week.
Yeah.
The most days in a row we laned. We just finished that 11 days in a row.
Right.
We laned by Sukkot, Erev Sukkot, and Itzur Chag. And that, again, will happen in 20 years. But it won't happen for 20 years is now sort of, we got one more month of this.
Right.
Till Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we could say, this won't happen for 20 years.
Yeah, and also this was the only setup where we laned Erev Rosh Hashanah. You never lane Erev Rosh Hashanah except for this setup.
Exactly. Which means that people with yard sites, okay, if I get this right, that if someone had a yard site on Erev Rosh Hashanah, or let's say on Zion Tishrei, or Erev Sukkot,
right,
then they got an aliyah this year, and they won't get one for 20 years on the yard site because that's the only setup of laning. And if you subtract out, Chav Tes Tishrei, Chav Tes Elul, Chav Beis Elul, Tes Vav Elul, all those days fall the same day of the week. So they got an aliyah this year. And if someone that had the yard site on the same day of the week as Rosh Hashanah, like let's say Erev Rosh Chodesh, Chav Tes Tishrei, so this year it was on a Tuesday, they did not get an aliyah, even though they normally do. Erev Rosh Chodesh is usually on a landing day, Monday, Thursday, or Shabbos.
Correct.
Except and the same thing with in Cheshvan, there'll be a bunch of days like that also.
Amazing.
Do the math, you'll figure that out. Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Well, Rabbi Heber, you know one thing. I'll definitely think of something after this conversation, so we'll be able to schedule another conversation a little later on in 5786. That's for sure.
Looking forward. It's a quiet year, but as we know, and I'm honored to be on your show, there's never a quiet year. Baruch Hashem, there's always fascinating events in the Jewish calendar, and Tafshin Pei Vav should be a year of bracha, and we should really have only simchas, and you and your family, your listeners, and all of Klal Yisrael.
Amen. No question about it. This is hopefully going to be a year of true peace for Am Yisrael. It's been a rough couple of years, and now we really could use some true peace, especially for our brothers and sisters in the Holy Land. Rabbi Heber, Big Yasher Koach, thank you so much. A happy, healthy, and sweet 5786.
You too. Take care. Zaygesund.
Zaygesund. Rabbi David Heber, our calendaric consultant, of course. Our segment with Rabbi Heber, as we analyze 5786, is sponsored by our dear friends Carrie and Joshua Levine of West Hempstead, New York, in honor of their daughter Shoshana's recent engagement to Seth Schlank, son of Eileen and Michael in Plainview, Long Island. To the Levines and the Schlanks, we say Mazal Tov from all of us here at JM&M, and big thank you to the Levines for always being there for us. Especially when it comes to Rabbi Heber's segment. And not only am I happy to report that Josh Levine is going to be chazering, reviewing this segment at least one extra time, at least, maybe even multiple times. But in addition to that, I'm very happy to report that Josh Levine now has the Tafshin Pei Vav Davar Be'ito. And as they say, if you know, you know. More coming up. You're listening to our Rosh Chodesh edition of JM in the AM.